Mark Weisbrot is the co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. He's joining us now from Washington, D.C. Thanks very much indeed for being with us. What do you think is going to happen if this aid gets across the border into Venezuela?
Well, the aid itself won't make a difference. It's not that much aid anyway, especially compared to the damage that's being done by the economic sanctions that the United States has had on the country for years now. In fact, the sanctions since August of 2017 created a financial embargo, and that has cost the economy, and I emphasize the economy because it's often portrayed as though the sanctions really hit the government, but they really hit the people. Many, many billions of dollars have been lost, along with the imports of medicine and food and spare parts and everything else. So the aid is really a symbolic thing that the Trump administration and the president, the self-declared president, I should say, Juan Guaido, have been saying from the outset they're using it as part of the regime change operation. That is, they're trying to use it in a way that would get armed forces of Venezuela to disobey orders of the president. It's all about public relations. And I should say that's why the United Nations and the International Red Cross and the groups that are actually concerned with humanitarian aid, they want no part of this, and they've very harshly criticized the whole thing.
How much does this open up the playing field, as it were, for want of a better phrase, to other actors around the world? For example, Russia. I mean, Nicolas Maduro has said that there is no problem, there is no humanitarian crisis within his country, and yet, if I understand it correctly, he has brought in some aid from Russia. Are we going to see a pivot of some sort? Are we going to see an increase in Russian influence in Venezuela, for example?
Well, I don't think it's really about that. I mean, the main influence right now is the United States. As I said, this financial embargo, the one that they already had before the one that they announced in January, this was already having a devastating effect on the economy. It knocked about, well, some hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil out of production. And this is a country that depends on oil for almost all of its foreign exchange. So again, you know, this narrative that you get from the Trump administration that they're just attacking the government, this is really attacking the people because it deprives the economy of the dollars that they need. Now, I don't think that, you know, whatever Russia's going to do isn't going to make that much difference if they provided more foreign exchange or some aid that could help. They've already been getting, you know, food aid in the past. They've gotten some from China. And if anybody, any of the countries that are allied with the United States in this regime change effort, if they wanted to actually help Venezuelans, there would be no problem delivering aid through the United Nations or through a third party, a neutral party. But again, the U.S. and its allies really see this as just one part of their effort to topple the government. And that's what they're actually trying to do, as they've said.
So if the sanctions are at the core of all of this, what is the way out of the situation that Venezuela finds itself in the moment if, as you say, the backstop to all of this is the financial pressure that the U.S. is putting on the Venezuelan economy?
And the Venezuelan people. I think that's part of their goal, is to make it intolerable, the suffering there, so that people and the army will overthrow the government. I think the way out is through a mediated and negotiated solution. That's really the only way out, because you still have a very polarized country, and you have millions of people who still support the government. And not only that, they would fight, some of them, and they also have a legitimate fear of persecution if the opposition were to seize power violently, which seems to be a strategy that Trump himself and his advisors, Bolton and Rubio and Abrams, are considering. So I think that's why you have the Pope, who has offered to mediate, and also Mexico and Uruguay, who are neutral, in this, and they have offered to mediate. And that's the kind of, you would need a negotiated solution. Mediation could help. But again, that's where the Trump administration, I think, plays their most destructive role, in addition to the sanctions, is that they're trying to prevent a negotiated solution because they want one in which they can maintain control over the entire outcome of what ends up.
Really good to get your views on this, Mark Weisbrot. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.